Support for Destination Michigan is provided by the CMU Bookstore. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, maroon and gold memories, and an official outfitter of Adidas apparel at the Central Michigan University owned and operated CMU Bookstore. Online shopping 7 days a week at cmubookstore.com. On campus at the University Center, and game day locations at Kelly Short Stadium and the John G. Kohalvi Event Center.
Hello everyone, I'm Matthew Ozanek and welcome to Destination Michigan. In this episode, it's all things Detroit as we're coming to you from Sunset Park on beautiful Belle Isle. And in this episode, we're going to be celebrating the old and the new in the Motor City. You're not going to want to miss it, so let's take a sneak peek at what we have coming up for you in this episode.
This building took only 15 months from the time that the shovels went into the ground to completion. So back in the roaring 20s, the workers were roaring too.
Our first stop is the historic Fisher Building to learn the story behind this marble-clad mammoth.
This is still the world's only subaqueous international vehicular tunnel.
Steve Smith takes us underneath the Detroit River and into the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel.
When you preserve, you can go to France with a major, gorgeous, historical object from Detroit's jazz history.
Catch a glimpse of this piece of Detroit's jazz history and learn about the group that saved it, the Detroit Sound Conservancy.
I think the non-technical skills, the life skills that they learn, I think that's the most amazing thing.
Cobo Hall comes alive as students from across the globe compete in the FIRST Robotics World Championship.
We are getting calls from around the world of riders wanting to come here.
And finally, we'll get your heart rate going with a few laps on the Lexus Velodrome. For our first stop today, we're heading to the historic Fisher Building located in the New Center neighborhood. The building itself has gone through some tough times in past years, but that's all turning around now as new life is being breathed into this beacon of the city. 3011 West Grand Boulevard, quite literally the heart of the city.
With a space like this, it's impossible not to feel the history and to not be moved by the beauty of the building.
You see people craning their necks because they can't stop looking at our beautiful arcade.
If you haven't visited the Fisher Building before, you definitely have to do it. I'm blown away every time.
The Fisher Building has been an Art Deco jewel in Detroit since 1928.
The Fisher Building is the world's largest marble-clad building. That's 325,000 square feet on the outside of the building. The floors are Italian marble. There are 40 kinds of marble on pillars throughout the three-story arcade. And then, of course, we have all the brass, the amazing painting. 25% of the Fisher's budget went to just making it look good. It helps give this building the designation of being Detroit's largest art object.
This tale begins when the 7 Fisher brothers of Fisher body fame approached architect Albert Kahn with one simple request: build us the most beautiful building in the world.
And so you take this design vision of the Fishers and Albert Kahn to develop such a signature building with the technology that was available at the time, and this building was really pushing the limits in a lot of ways. Look at the floor, 70,000 pieces of cut stone in that floor. This was all done by hand. They didn't have those type of machines back then.
This was something like Detroit had not seen before. So this was really Kahn going outside of his own box and really bringing Detroit something unique, exciting, fresh, and hyper-modern for 1928. This building took only 15 months from the time that the shovels went into the ground to completion. So back in the roaring 20s, the workers were roaring too.
A glowing beacon for the city, the Fisher Building stood tall through Detroit's boom in the 20th century. But over the years, that shine began to fade and repairs were desperately needed. In 2015, investors Dietrich Noer and Peter Cummings acquired the building and began the arduous process of returning the Fisher to her former glory.
We spent really the first few months trying to just understand what we have here, which, it's a almost 100-year-old building, so the systems and everything is quite old, and you wouldn't build it like that today. There's a whole team working on this every day, and it's fun, but it's also, it's a heavy lift.
Just the magnitude of the repairs required from years of deferred maintenance. Water is probably our biggest challenge. It leaks from the exterior of the building into the facade, then can damage the plaster, ceilings and walls.
For Rachel Lutz, owner of one of the Fisher's newest tenants, the Peacock Room, converting an old credit union into a glamorous boutique was quite a daunting task.
This room was kind of a hot mess. So we decided to really reimagine it, not just to what it used to be, but maybe beyond what it used to be. So we brought the room into full color, we added the crystal chandeliers, and it really was an amazing transformation. Since we've opened, I've spoken to a lot of newcomers to the neighborhood, but also a lot of longtime residents, and all of them agree that there's just such a huge transformation that's taken place. We had 5 new storefronts open within the last 3 months, and you really feel a different chemistry in the neighborhood.
The Fisher Building has always been my favorite building. It seemed like moving to another planet or something to open a flower shop here. Actually, the same day we moved into the shop, I bought a house and closed on a house just a few blocks north here. So it's definitely my neighborhood.
And that neighborhood feeling permeates throughout the Fisher Building, and even on the outside, where there are large plaques adorned with the names of Detroit's neighborhoods.
The neighborhood signs that's saying that the way we intend to develop, or the way we should develop in cities, is to really think of all the people that reside in the city, and also how do you invite everybody into the conversation. What we're being very deliberate about and intentional about is the aspect of creating a cultural epicenter. The aspect of the neighborhood signs is to basically tell all the neighborhoods that you are invited here into the largest art object in the Fisher Building.
And it really ties back to what the Fisher Building is about today. The Fisher Building is located in the geographic heart of Detroit. And in many ways, this is also the symbolic heart of Detroit as well, where all neighborhoods and all artists are invited to come back here to the Fisher Building and let their work, their vision for what the city can be and should be, radiate from within.
Another Detroit landmark is one of the busiest international land ports of entry in the United States, the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel. Steve Smith is here, and he's going to take us on a tour of the facility that has been transporting passengers underneath the Detroit River for nearly 90 years.
It's hard to envision, but prior to 1929, the only way to cross the Detroit River from Detroit to Windsor was by ferry. Not the most efficient way to move people, cars, trucks, and trains.
Ferries had their limitations, and a large part of the limitation had to do with weather. And so the river would freeze over, and you really almost stopped commerce between the two countries. There were a number of attempts to build bridges across, and they were not successful. There was a couple of discussions on building a tunnel, and they weren't successful.
That is until Fred Martin, a Windsor Salvation Army captain, pulled all the parties together and got the green light for a tunnel to be built.
The tunnel opened in 1930. It was built in the late 20s and at a cost of about $25 million, and it took 26 months to build. In today's world, you couldn't get your permits in 26 months. President Herbert Hoover rang what's called the Golden Bell from Washington, and that opened the tunnel to the first vehicles on November 3rd, 1930.
Building the tunnel preceded the development of huge boring machines to remove rocks, sands, and soil.
The tunnel was actually built starting from two opposite ends, and they didn't have GPS. It was the old slide ruler days, and so when they built the tunnel, they met in the middle, and there was less than 2 inches of difference of when the two sides met in the middle. And so the section under the river was actually built by what's called the sunken tube methods. Tubes were created in the Ojibwe section of Canada, floated down the river and actually sunk. And the tubes were then connected and then connected to the land section, which were actually hand dug by what were called muckers.
The tunnel has been recognized as one of the great engineering wonders of the world and incorporated one of the most elaborate ventilation systems ever designed, a critical safety precaution for motorists traveling 1 mile under 75 feet of water.
When the tunnel was originally built, they built the ventilation building on both sides of the river. From the ventilation building on either side, we can control the ventilation fans, we can control the electrical power supply and distribution from either ventilation building. There were 24 fans total, 12 fans on the US side, 12 fans on the Canadian side. The ventilation system supplies 90 cubic feet of air every minute within the tunnel roadway. That's to help assure the safety of the drivers that are driving through, so they have adequate airflow pumped in with the fresh air pumping in from the roadway level, and then up above the ceiling level, that's where our exhaust system, where it exhausts the bad air, so to speak, out of the tunnel.
The tunnel remains one of the busiest land ports of entry to this day, providing a critical connection between the economic hubs of Detroit and Windsor.
A lot of the folks that go back and forth on a regular basis are somehow tied to the auto industry. The other key factor for us really are people in the medical community. We put through about 2,500 to 3,000 cars a day that are primarily Canadian nurses tied to the hospitals in Southeast Michigan. And so some of the hospitals, up to 62% of their nursing staff actually crosses the border on a daily basis.
A trip through the tunnel surrounds you with 250,000 ceramic wall tiles, 80,000 cubic yards of concrete, and 750 tons of reinforced steel. Half of the tunnel belongs to Windsor, half to Detroit. American Roads has an operating agreement with both cities to handle maintenance, security, and toll collection.
It actually has a very interesting past, and our claim to fame today is this is still the world's only subaqueous international vehicular tunnel. And that's a long phrase that says this is the only tunnel between two countries that goes underwater where you can drive.
Now anybody with even a cursory knowledge of Detroit music knows all about Berry Gordy and his famous Motown records, but Detroit's impact on the worldwide music scene doesn't stop there. And for our next story, we're going to introduce you to the Detroit Sound Conservancy, a group of people working diligently to support Detroit's other musical legacies.
We all do music. Humans have sonic capacities, and therefore we have legacies. We're listeners, even if we're not practitioners. That soundscape, what you grew up with, that experience, that's valuable. Take legacy seriously. You are a part in Michigan, in this area, and regionally, you are already part of a legacy.
Carlton Goles is the founder of the Detroit Sound Conservancy. Whatever the genre, whatever the time period, if it's a part of the Detroit Sound, they're in. And it was Carlton's time spent as a music journalist that started him on this journey of historical and cultural preservation.
DSC is very much part of a much longer history with myself and people I know from the dance community and music communities who I met over the years, and our concern for what we might be losing.
And the DSC's concerns were valid. With every day, week, and year that went by, another piece of Detroit's musical legacy seemed to be under threat. Action had to be taken.
Very early on, we, for instance, helped get historic district status for United Sound Systems, which is one of the oldest recording studios in the country, if not the world. That was an early struggle that we went through and a win. And so now we're like, okay, now how do we move forward in a larger scale way that protects other things? We also got a major collection, the Greystone International Jazz Museum collection. They had existed since 1974, but they had run out of steam. A number of their people had died, and they had left a lot of their materials abandoned. But I think the goal now is, okay, how do we pivot from this sort of early phase, bringing some things in, figuring out what the needs are in the community. What do people need us to be, as opposed to what I thought we were going to be. It's changed a lot in the first 5 years. So now, okay, now we know who we are. We're a preservation-driven nonprofit that is able to do so much more because we preserve. When you preserve, you can storytell. When you preserve, you can curate. When you preserve, you can go to France with a major, gorgeous historical object from Detroit's jazz history.
That piece of history that Carlton is referring to is this stage from Detroit's famous Bluebird Jazz Club.
It's a combination of antique pieces, so original to the club, going back to approximately 1956. And then it's a combination of that and then new pieces that were brought because it had to be rebuilt. It built in 4 big sections, so it actually comes apart in 4 big pieces. The tongue and groove here, the wood here was salvaged and is all original. And then the railing was all salvaged and it's been reinforced and fixed and loved. The French actually, when we were in France, did some really incredible preservation work while we were there, which we're very humbled that they took it so seriously. The French really got what this was about.
The Detroit Sound Conservancy hopes that their efforts will become contagious and get more people throughout Michigan and beyond to ask themselves, how can I protect the musical legacies in my hometown? And as Carlton tells us, the time to act is now.
Part of the basic argument for Detroit Sound Conservancy is if we do not act now, we are really looking at conditions in which we won't be able to play back our recordings. We won't be able to preserve the ones that we have. There's enough regional richness here in the state of Michigan. Gibson guitars began in Kalamazoo. We pressed up the first Beatles records in Owasso. You were already part of it. Ask the question, where is the live music in my town? Where is it? Who's helping it? Who's making it work? This is the kind of real basic questions I'd be asking. And if you can get involved in that level, you're already part of the solution, I think.
You know, Detroit is known by several monikers. The Motor City, Motown, even now America's comeback city. But as Steve Smith is about to tell us, there's one more title to add to that list, the home of the FIRST Robotics World Championship.
FIRST stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology, and we're one of the teams that earned our way to the FIRST Championship, and we're competing with our robot, and we're going against teams from all over the world.
Here in Detroit at this World Championship, we will have over 40,000 people attending the event. About 15,000 of those will be students. Those students will come from 45 countries and 25 states in the United States. There'll be about 700 teams competing here.
School robotic clubs have experienced phenomenal expansion over the past 2 decades, growing from only a few teams in the U.S. to well over 50,000 teams in 80 countries around the world. The true beauty of this event is the way it transcends the concept of winning and losing. Robotics is revolutionizing kids' interests in all aspects of their lives.
The change in the kids is really amazing. There's obviously the technical skills, and I think a lot of people see that part of the program, but I think the non-technical skills, the life skills that they learn, I think that's the most amazing thing that you see. The time management, problem solving. Our season is so compressed and so busy that there's always something you have to fix. There's always a problem you have to solve. There's always an obstacle you have to overcome.
Tom isn't a Novi teacher. He's a volunteer coach and has been for 7 years. It's a 12-month-a-year commitment. Some might say a crusade.
This is really something that you can make a difference. Especially that's why we do a lot of the outreach events that we do during the year. We go to the inner city. We go to communities that don't have the resources that we have maybe. Where you're really able to see and make change. You see people that are able to go to college on a scholarship where maybe that wasn't a possibility for them before.
When I was younger, I really didn't have an idea of what I wanted to do. But then after joining robotics, I think I realized how much I love the problem-solving aspects of it and figuring out creative ideas to solutions. And then, but because of that, it's helped me decide that I wanted to go into computer engineering.
Robotics has really kind of cemented my interest in engineering because in middle school I always considered engineering among other things to major in college, but as soon as I joined robotics and saw what we did here, it's really okay, this is definitely something I want to go into. It's something I want to learn more about, so that's what I'm going to go to Lake Superior State for, is to go into robotics engineering actually.
The excitement in Cobo Hall was a cross between a sporting event and rock concert, as spectators cheered on the 130-pound mechanical machines and the teams who have spent months leaving nothing to chance.
One of the coolest things is there's so many things on a robot that have to work extremely well together, but everyone's working on their own thing at the same time. So electronics is working, and then the coders are working, mechanical people are doing their thing, and then at the end of the build season, everything just has to come together perfectly. And honestly, it's one of the coolest things to watch. So.
While the FIRST Robotics World Championship brings youngsters together from around the world, all the work begins at the students' local school, where the communities are stepping up to lend their support and encouragement.
Honestly, the entire school has been great. We've had like huge pep assemblies with all of the elementary students, and when we were leaving for states, our entire school clapped for us and like let us out, which was pretty awesome.
The school has really gotten behind us. If you watch our social media, we get the same shout outs and the same accolades as the football team or the basketball team. We have a robot that we built several years ago that can shoots a baseball, throws the first pitch at the Detroit Tigers game. It also doubles as a t-shirt cannon. That's a fan favorite every time.
Now, when you first lay eyes on the Lexus Velodrome, it might seem a little out of place in a city like Detroit, but dig deeper into their story and you'll find out that this city is exactly where a velodrome belongs. So Stephanie Mills is here and she's going to give us a tour of this facility that has gained worldwide attention.
Four-wheeled vehicles help put Detroit on the map, but here inside the Lexus Velodrome, the future is on two wheels.
This is new. The city of Detroit was trying in the Parks and Recreation Department, took a chance on us that this would work and be something successful and good for the residents.
That chance is paying off big time. Welcome to the Lexus Velodrome. Never heard of it? Neither did we until recently. Curiosity, like many others, got the best of us, so we had to come down and check it out. So what exactly is a velodrome? Well, we met with Dale Hughes to fill us in.
A velodrome, the same word for a velodrome is cycling track. It's something you can ride and race your bicycles on. Here in the United States, we have about 25 velodromes. Most of them are the old style, which is a much bigger, more like a 440 running track, very large, relatively flat. We only have 3 indoor velodromes in the United States. This one here, the Lexus Velodrome. There's one at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, and there's an indoor velodrome in LA. Ours is really the most unique aspect is that we're more than just a velodrome, we're a real multi-sport complex.
Now what sets this facility apart from others is everything you're able to do here. You can get a workout without riding a bicycle, and it's great for people of all ages.
But we have what we call 3 fields of play. We have the 8th mile running, walking, inline skating oval that is named after Eddie Tolan, who won 2 gold medals in the 32 Olympic Games. We refer to it as the ET Oval. So people can come there and walk and run and inline skate and quad skate. But then we have the cycling track, the velodrome itself, which is an 1/8 of a mile, banked 15 degrees in the straights and 50 degrees in the turns. And then we have a fitness area, 1,200 square foot fitness area for all the different fitness classes.
Dale knows a thing or two about building these tracks. He built his first velodrome when he was 25 years old.
It was a portable velodrome. We traveled around the country, made a movie with Universal Studios with Walter Matthau and a bunch of cool people. We were a little 1-minute scene. I thought we were really going to make it that, but we were a little bit before our time. But in 1995, the Olympic Committee called me up and said that we'd like to have an American builder build a velodrome for the Olympic Games in Atlanta. That track set all new Olympic records. So that sort of gave me my credentials, and since then I've been building them around the world. I've built probably about 25 of them around the world.
But velodrome racing is not for the faint of heart. You need a track bike to ride here, or you can rent one if you don't have one. If it's your first time, you need to take a course before you get on the track. After that, it's all mental.
When you're out there on a bike and you have to tell your brain, no, I'm not going to fall, I'm not going to fall, because you're essentially riding towards a wall, that 50-degree bank there, and you just have to keep telling yourself, well, the guy in front of me didn't fall, I guess I'm not going to fall too. 2 or 3 laps and you start to loosen up.
Speed is your friend on the track, so you want to have speed. And your first time riding it, your brain says this is stupid. You sort of want to go into it cautiously, and that's the last thing and the worst thing you can do, because there is a minimum speed. If you don't go fast enough, you'll literally slide down the track. It's sort of like a bucket list thing for some people that they just wanted to do it the one time and say they did it. For other people, they're using it as fitness and sport.
Riders can hit speeds up to 40 miles an hour when they're racing around the track. They host Fridays and Saturday races here, and spectators can get up close to the action in comfy suites right along the track. The races and the games riders play are a hit for the crowd.
It's really exciting, like you said, the races come down and watch. To be up there is a lot of fun, and it's a great workout. Plus what it's offering the community.
There's no doubt that the resurgence of Detroit in the last 5 years has been outstanding. We are getting calls from around the world of riders wanting to come here, of people wanting to come and see our facility. And I think that is because we have a unique facility, but also because Detroit is really served the hot spot to be in the country right now.
And with that, this episode of Destination Michigan comes to a close. From all of us here, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Now you can enjoy the Destination Michigan experience anytime, anywhere, online. Just go to pbs.org or download the PBS app to your smartphone or tablet. Search Destination Michigan and relive all of your favorite stories from our beloved Great Lakes state.